Chosen one, listen carefully. You are not here by accident. In the realms of spirit, nothing is coincidence. If you've been feeling the signs, sudden isolation, unexplained fatigue, vivid dreams, or a silent restlessness, then this message is for you. We are in the final days of August, and what is about to happen on the first day of September will recalibrate the spiritual path of all those who have been called. But pay close attention. Not everyone is ready. Not everyone will understand what's coming. Not everyone will pass through the portal. That's why, in this video, I will reveal why this date is so powerful, what is being activated in the spiritual realm, and how you can align with this energy before it's too late. Something far greater is approaching, and if you feel in your heart that this message is for you, then you already know you are one of the chosen. Stay until the end, because at the end of this video, you will understand why your soul has been waiting for this moment your entire life. There is something within you that senses it, a subtle noise that doesn't come from the outside, but from within, as if an ancient part of your being were whispering that change is approaching. And even without being able to name it, you feel it. It's like walking across a bridge between worlds. The known no longer seems to fit, and the unknown has not yet taken form. The body signals, the dreams intensify, the emotions become living matter in an invisible, yet inevitable process. The waxing moon in Scorpio does not illuminate the obvious. It lights up the hidden zones of the soul, revealing the inner fragments you tried to keep out of sight. Old emotions return, not to punish you, but to ask for passage. The tension that arises in this transit is not a mistake, but a point of overflow. The inner hero feels that something must change, and if you resist, the universe pushes, because there is no more room for the old version to occupy the throne of your consciousness. This inner conflict, between continuing with the familiar or answering the call of the new, is real, but it carries a rare opportunity to transform instinctive impulse into embodied wisdom. Scorpio brings the alchemy of pain, the power to transmute symbolic death into the birth of essence. It's not about changing who you are. It's about removing, layer by layer, everything that was placed upon you and does not belong to your truth. September approaches like a portal that only opens to those who have already begun the inner crossing. The first day will not arrive with fireworks, but with spiritual precision. What you feel during this time, even without understanding, will be an activation code. Trust the signs, the intuitions, the pauses, and the impulses. You are being prepared, not for just any new beginning, but to step into the place that only your spirit can inhabit. And the time is now. Not everything that stirs within us needs an immediate name. There are forces operating in the subterranean layers of the psyche, reconfiguring structures while you breathe, while you try to maintain control. The waxing moon in Scorpio works in this silent territory, where inner truths once dormant now begin to stir. This restlessness is not weakness. It is the sign of a calling, an invisible preparation for what will be revealed at the beginning of September. The universe does not work with haste, but with precision. And for a new journey to unfold, something within you must recognize that it can no longer continue in the old molds. This change you feel without fully understanding is legitimate. It is dissolving masks, dismantling identities built for survival rather than truth. Scorpio's energy demands radical presence, and the only way to cross it is to surrender to the truth that pulses in silence. The waxing moon is not conclusion. It is the tension between what has already been born and what is yet to manifest. It is in this threshold that the inner hero finds their next step, not with ready-made answers, but with the courage to sustain the creative void between the old and the new. The discomfort is not the end. It is the symptom that something greater is about to be birthed through your consciousness. And this requires that you remain awake, even without knowing what is to come. The first day of September will not be random. It marks the activation of a subtler frequency that only the attentive will be able to decipher. What seemed like confusion until now will reveal its inner logic. But only for those who did not flee the crossing. You are not lost. You are being gestated by something greater. Breathe. Integrate. Trust. What is coming requires a version of you that can only be born when you allow yourself to be whole. You had drawn a path. Mental projections, meticulous plans, drafts of a future that once seemed secure. But now, something slips out of the script, as if the universe had other plans for you. And under the influence of the waxing moon in Scorpio, what once looked like direction now becomes a mirror. Everything you expected to achieve begins to dissolve, not as punishment, but because life needs to reposition you into something greater. This transit doesn't bring comfort, but clarity. Scorpio doesn't mask the process, it reveals it. And when the moon waxes in this sign, hidden structures rise to the surface with force. That's when expectations collapse, and the true path emerges through the cracks. What once looked like delay is recalibration. What once looked like loss is an opening to purpose. But only those brave enough to drop the map will discover the real destination. Disappointments appear as teachers. They shatter the illusion of control and return you to your raw truth. Perhaps what you once desired was too small compared to what your soul truly came here to experience. The breaking of expectations is the initiation of many heroes. When the outer world fails, the inner world lights up. And then, the hero understands that the path is not chosen by will alone, but by the maturity of someone who no longer needs to hide from themselves. The first day of September is already approaching like a new dawn, but only those who had the courage to face the ruins of what was no longer real will fully cross it. The waxing moon calls for inner movement, surrender, rebirth. The surprise you fear may be the very realignment that saves your journey. Be willing to be surprised, because that's where the miracle hides. You thought your spiritual awakening would have a specific shape, maybe smoother, clearer, more linear. But Scorpio doesn't offer that kind of passage. It strips away the layers and reveals the contradictions, the things you claim to want, but weren't ready to sustain. And then, the doors that once seemed certain begin to close. The journey changes its tone, and what once looked like a detour slowly reveals itself to be the true path. The waxing moon in Scorpio does not accept half measures. It demands depth. And in this lunar phase, everything lukewarm within you begins to stir. Expectations that were not born of your soul collapse. This breaking is not failure, it is realignment. Your pain in the face of the unexpected may actually be the first sign of liberation. Because only when structures fall apart can the fertile ground of truth emerge. The hero you are becoming is not the one who controls every step. It is the one who feels the calling in the middle of chaos and responds with courage. Expect the unexpected, and don't try to control the route. Scorpio pulls you into a dive that feels like disorder, but is purification. Your prayers have been heard, yes, but not answered in the way you imagined. What is coming is greater than your plans could have held. The 1st of September will arrive like a silent rite, an invisible threshold where those who let go of what was expected will cross into the soul's domain with greater truth. The surprises ahead may not be what you wanted, but they might be exactly what you needed. If the path shifts, don't resist. Simply trust. You were chosen to walk a trail that can only be traveled with a whole heart. You feel that something wants to be born within you, but this birth feels too risky. There is a silent fear of showing who you truly are, as if being authentic were dangerous, as if revealing your emotions would make you too vulnerable. Scorpio, with its intensity, does not accept disguises. It penetrates what is hidden and demands your full presence. The discomfort pulsing through you today is not weakness. It is your soul begging to stop hiding. You know what you want, but you are trying to protect yourself from the judgment that was never yours to carry. The movement of the waxing moon in Scorpio doesn't ask you to explode, but to release. To let go of controlling how you will be received and to speak firmly what needs to be spoken. Your silence also makes you sick. Your self-censorship builds walls where bridges could exist. This planetary energy activates the portal between fear and expression, between retreat and personal power. Every act of courage begins small, in a gesture, a word, a choice that honors your emotion, even if your voice trembles. You want to begin again, but you carry the scars of old rejections. And those wounds speak loudly, trying to convince you it is safer to remain quiet, invisible, convenient. But Scorpio is the archetype of death and rebirth. It whispers that healing is not found in avoiding pain, but in moving through it with dignity. The ascending soul is not born ready. It is forged in the fire of surrender. The truth you've been avoiding is, paradoxically, the very key that will unlock the sleeping path ahead. The first day of September will arrive with a spiritual opening that demands wholeness. It will not be possible to cross this new threshold carrying the masks the world taught you to wear. The one you are becoming needs your voice, needs your rawest, most alive, most sincere emotion. The universe does not reward those who hide, but those who dare to be whole, even without guarantees. This is your calling. And it begins the moment you decide to betray yourself no more. You've already felt this inner call to begin again, as if a new version of yourself were knocking at the door of your consciousness. But every time you rehearse crossing that invisible line, something pulls you back. It isn't a lack of will. It's the primal fear of showing yourself and not being understood. Scorpio, ruler of the emotional unseen, leaves no more room for armor. The energy pulsing now demands emotional nakedness, not as weakness, but as the starting point of true transmutation. The waxing moon, in this sign of depth and truth, ignites the urgency of authenticity. There is no longer a way to fake stability where there is only denial. Your silence has become too heavy, and your body feels it. The emotions you've been holding back begin to leak through where you least expect. Sudden irritations, inexplicable exhaustion, a distancing from yourself. The sky is not in conflict, it is in provocation. And this provocation is an invitation. Stop holding back what was born to be spoken. The journey of the inner hero is not made with external applause, but with intimate decisions. Speaking the truth, even while afraid. Opening the heart, even without control. Owning your wounds, even without the guarantee of immediate healing. You don't need to have all the answers. Only enough courage to take the next step without abandoning yourself. Scorpio teaches that the greatest treasures are hidden in the caves you fear to explore, and that every denied part of yourself is a key to your wholeness. On the first day of September, this force that now whispers will intensify, and you will have to choose. Keep performing an edited version of yourself, or walk toward what is viscerally true. Awakening doesn't arrive with sweet promises. It arrives with ruptures that set you free. Everything begins when you decide that your truth matters more than your performance, that the soul matters more than the mask, and that self-love demands, above all, honesty with what you feel. There was a time when you distanced yourself from who you truly were just to stay standing. External demands screamed louder than your intuition, and in the name of survival, you buried deep truths. You did what was necessary, but the necessary came at a cost. Now, in this waxing cycle of a moon moving through Scorpio, there is no more room for pretending. The call you feel does not come from outside. It is your essence trying to return to you. And resisting this is draining more and more of your vital energy. The return is not simple. Parts of you remain lost in old pacts of silence and self-protection. To find them again is like digging in the dark. It takes courage, humility, and presence. But Scorpio's energy does not ask for speed. It asks for depth. It shows you that coming back to yourself is not regression. It is a choice of power. The exhaustion you feel is not just physical. It is your soul asking to reintegrate with what, long ago, was left for later. The inner hero knows that no escape compensates for the distance from your truth. No matter how many emotional defenses you built, today those structures begin to crumble. Not because of failure, but because your soul is now mature enough to hold itself without disguises. The waxing moon amplifies this transition. You are no longer who had to hide. Now, there is space to heal without justifying yourself, to live without begging for permission. The reunion with yourself is inevitable. And it is on this threshold between the old and the sacred that the first day of September approaches. A new cycle announces itself, but it can only be born authentically if you are whole. No more fragments or rehearsed roles. The journey demands real presence. You are being called to remember who you are, not as a memory, but as a choice. Because returning to yourself is not returning to the past. It is, finally, beginning to live what has always been latent, your truest mission. You've spent too much time trying to be functional in the chaos, and it has cost you essential parts of yourself. The disconnection was involuntary at first, just a defense mechanism. But the farther you drifted from yourself, the heavier the pain became. The soul never forgets who it came here to be. And now, with the waxing moon in Scorpio, you are being gently pushed inward to touch the absences you built in order to survive. There is a silent request for reintegration. Scorpio does not mask. It reveals. And this revelation does not come as guilt, but as invitation. When the 1st of September rises on the horizon, a new cycle will open for those with the courage to look at themselves with radical honesty. This requires breaking away from the version of yourself that learned to perform. You no longer need to uphold the character of the strong one, the untouchable, the rational. What strengthens you now is your wholeness, including what you once believed was weakness. The spiritual journey does not begin when everything is clear. It begins when you surrender to the depth of what you feel. And in this cycle, the moon in Scorpio asks for surrender. To feel anger, sadness, desire, doubt. All of this is part of the healing. Instead of running from who you are called to include. The inner hero is not the one who conquers, but the one who integrates, who honors the shadow as part of the light, who returns, not to the starting point, but to the point of truth. This return changes everything. Because when you remember yourself, no structure built upon the absence of your soul can remain standing. The first day of September arrives as an invisible but powerful marker, the fine line between continuing to sleep or choosing to awaken. And it is not about perfection, but commitment. Commitment to who you came here to be, to the mission that has always whispered to you, to the life that awaits when you finally decide to come home, to yourself. Something inside you is moving, even if the world around you insists on looking the same. It's not just ordinary anxiety, it's a calling, like an invisible drum beating beneath your skin, reminding you that you are late for what you came here to fulfill. And although everything outside may seem to follow its course, it's within that the ground begins to tremble. The waxing moon in Scorpio acts as a lighthouse in the unconscious, illuminating what you've tried to postpone. There is a mission waiting to be embraced, and running from it now will only increase the pain. You may have confused purpose with performance, tried to fit into molds, chase after other people's goals, seek applause on stages that were never yours. But purpose doesn't scream, it whispers. And in this transit, Scorpio whispers loudly. It dismantles disguises, shatters facades, and forces you to look directly at what's missing, not in the material sense, but in the essential. Life is calling you to something greater, and it's up to you to decide whether to answer or keep pretending you didn't hear. Every true spiritual journey begins with a breaking, the breaking of what no longer sustains your soul. And when that happens, it's natural to feel fear, loneliness, even doubt. But these feelings aren't obstacles, they're portals. They are proof that something is about to be born within you. The waxing moon in Scorpio doesn't want to wound you, it wants to set you free. For that, you'll need the courage to die to the old version of yourself, and the faith to walk toward the new. On the 1st of September, something shifts. Not in the skies, but in you. It won't be a sudden flash of illumination, but a steady firmness settling in. The certainty that you are no longer available for what does not honor you. This turning point is not for everyone. It's for the chosen. And being chosen is not a privilege, it's a responsibility. The responsibility not to hide from your own calling, to keep going even without guarantees, and to trust that, by saying yes to your purpose, life finally aligns. You are feeling the calling, even if you don't yet know how to name it. It's as if reality has sharper edges now, as if the days themselves are pushing you to look inward with greater firmness. Scorpio does not tolerate distractions, it wants truth. And the truth is that what you call restlessness is, at its core, your soul rebelling against a life that no longer reflects who you are. There is no going back to the old comfort. The portal has opened, and crossing it is the only way forward. You can try to resist, to justify your stagnation with excuses that sound logical, but no longer convince your heart. Discomfort is not punishment, it's a reminder. The waxing moon in Scorpio lights the torch of clarity among the ruins of what has already collapsed. It whispers, do not fear your own depth, for at the very center of it all lies your mission. And a mission, when denied, makes you ill, but when embraced, it heals. It heals everything that has been suspended inside you. September 1st will not be just another day. It will be a turning point. A subtle line separating the time of inertia from the time of surrender. The journey does not begin with answers, but with willingness. Willingness to strip away the mask, abandon inherited roles, and allow purpose to reveal itself, even if slowly. Scorpio does not demand perfection, only wholeness. And only those who dive into the shadows of the unspoken can rise with the power to truly transform. If you feel you are standing at the edge of something, it's because you are. Not outside, within. A new spiritual cycle begins, but it requires your full presence. The chosen are not the strongest, they are the most available. Available to feel, to review, to transform, to begin again. This calling is not for those still chasing approval. It is for those ready to live with soul. What is coming will be great, but it will only flourish where there is true surrender and the courage to be who you are.